fool's journey, she was turning that wheel of fortune. Y'all remember, she was turning that wheel of fortune, creating her paths in destiny in relation to her emotions. Jan had faced the rise in her personal journey after her husband lost his job, the passing of her mother, and her cancer diagnosis. The Wheel of Fortune taught her to start focusing on her positive emotions, to start creating more positive situations to reflect upon. And her journey had been great, and loss was cumulative in such a short period. Through this period, Jan began working with a transformational coach and therapist. Y'all remember that, right? Mark, her husband, was still reeling in the loss of his position and was facing his own battles. The two of them began to separate emotionally and turning within instead of turning into one another. Along the way, our Jan, our sweet, sweet Jan, met a friend named Steve and began to emotionally connect with him. That led to flirtations that dangerously treaded the line of betrayal to her marriage. Jan finally ended this relationship with Steve after realizing that her behavior could possibly destroy her marriage and hurt the man that she loved so very much. But to her dismay, Mark had accidentally found a steamy text on her phone that was written 2 weeks prior to her finally ending it. We meet Jan in the second part of this journey, Injustice. Dun, dun, dun. And I've literally got to make this bigger because it's really tiny letters, so just give me a second. Now, from the original Fool's Journey, the fool must now decide what this vision means to him personally. He looks back over his life to trace the cause and effect relationships that have brought him to this point. He takes responsibility for his past actions so he can make amends and ensure a more honest course for the future. The demands of justice must be served so that he can wipe the slate clean. This is a time of decision for the fool. He is making important choices, as our Jan is getting ready to make some important choices. Will he remain true to his insights, or will he slip back into an easier, more unaware existence that closes off further growth? While Jan was entertaining the relationship with Steve, we would say that she was on the path of the justice reversed. Knowing that what she was doing was wrong, hiding it, and engaging in the behavior anyway. Jan began the journey of the justice card upright when she ended the relationship. But this turn of events always has consequences. She must face the horrible truth of her actions in the justice upright, or create the blame to Mark in the justice reversed. Jan chooses the high road. Of course she does, because she's our Jan, right? And she decides that she must face her own doing, no matter what it meant and the consequences of action. Mark, going through his own fool's journey, is devastated and decides that a short-term separation may do them both well and good. So, our Jan and our Mark are now kind of broken up. And Jan is devastated too. She is brokenhearted. She's angry with herself. She's angry with Mark for his abandonment. She's not understanding how any of this could have ever happened to either one of them and their life. It's just her and little Elliot now, and somehow she has to keep moving forward, but she doesn't know how with that broken heart. She hopes that Mark will eventually forgive her and trust her again, but after numerous attempts to contact him, he's been quiet. So, undaunted, we gotta make this bigger because I'm blind. Undaunted, the fool pushes on. He pushes on. He is determined to realize his vision, but he finds that life is not so easily tamed. Sooner or later, later, he encounters his personal cross. And that's going to be our first actual, I can't even think of the word, spread. Sooner or later, he encounters his personal cross, an experience that seems too difficult to endure. The overwhelming challenge humbles him until he has no choice but to give up and let go. At first, the fool feels defeated and lost. He believes he has sacrificed everything. But from the depths, he learns an amazing truth. He finds that when he relinquishes his struggle for control, everything begins to work as it should. By becoming open and vulnerable, the fool discovers the miraculous support of the inner self. He learns to surrender to his experiences rather than fighting them. We've all been there, right? He feels a surprising joy and begins to flow with life. The fool feels suspended in a timeless moment, free of urgency and pressure. In truth, his world has been turned upside down. The fool, as the hanged man, apparently martyred, but actually serene and at peace. So Jen is now entertaining the hanged man reverse position by focusing on the abandonment that she felt with Mark while she was grieving and sick. She begins pushing in her business, which is creating kind of like its own resistance, right? And her business begins unraveling. Jen knows that the hangman card represents the universal bitch slap. The universal bitch slap. How many of you have ever had the universal bitch slap? It's a lot of fun, right? So this card, the hangman, is the universal bitch slap card, guys, okay? She knows it all too well. Take care of your stuff, or the universe will do it for you. And that is not always so fun. When the universe takes over, it's not always so fun, right? So she begins to entertain the hangman in the upright position. She must focus on self-forgiveness first, and her forgiveness with Mark. She needs to give Mark the space he needs to heal, and she needs to own up to her own actions. She has to let go, as hard as it is with her relationship and her career. It's time for deep introspection and self-love. Ultimately, Mark will call his wife, but only to let her know that he wants to make the separation permanent. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Is everybody still following along? Everybody still feeling good? I definitely have had it. I have definitely had it myself. My internet is horrible today. Okay, we'll catch you on the replay, Lisa. Everybody feeling good? Everybody feeling for Jan and Mark right now, who have literally just broke up over this crazy little affair that she was entertaining and beginning. Yes, feeling good. Feeling good. Where is everybody? I only have 8 people on tonight. I think more than that said they were calling. Angie says yes. Keisha says yes. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. So, Mark has now told his wife that he wants a divorce. He's done. He's done with Jan's indiscretions. The fool now begins to eliminate, the fool would be Jan. The fool now begins to eliminate old habits and tired approaches. He cuts out non-essentials because he appreciates the basics of life. He goes through endings as he puts the outgrown aspects of his life behind him. I think I know Jan. Minus the affair part. I like that. His process may seem like dying because it is the death of his familiar self to allow for the growth of a new one. At times, this inexorable change seems to be crushing the fool, but eventually he rises up to discover that death is not a permanent state. It is simply a transition a new, more fulfilling way of life. Our Jan is now facing the death part of her life. And sometimes with death, the grief to the endings can be so strong. But they are given to us in life to help make us stronger, actually, and to put us on new paths and new journeys. So Jan decides that she will embrace the change in her life and make better choices for herself in the path forward. She begins navigating as a newly single woman, spending more time finding new things to enjoy, taking nature walks, discovering art, and focusing on empowering herself and those around her in her business. Jan doesn't want to embrace the death card in reverse. She decides to no longer resist the things that occur on her path, but instead embrace them. In death reversed, she would be in a place of urging Mark to change his mind without realizing that this new path may be the best for both of them in the end. So she decides that everything is always working for her benefit, even if she can't find the reasoning before her in the moment. So Jan is now grieving the death of the relationship. She's finding herself kind of in a brand new kind of journey. With death, there is always new beginnings, right? With death, there is always new beginnings. And sometimes in our path, in our life, things have to die so that new things can emerge. And as you're going through and you're going to sleep at night and you may be dreaming, if you ever have a dream of a death that feels very significant, it's not necessarily the death of a person. It usually represents the death of a situation, just like the death card here. But oftentimes what I tell people is when you do have a dream of like a massive death, sometimes right behind that is dreaming of new babies or being pregnant, because once a death occurs, new beginnings happen. And this is Jan's new path. Like she's grieving the death of her relationship with her husband Mark, but in the same time, in the same breath, she's trying to find her feet again. She's trying to be reborn, right? So since embracing the hermit, the fool has swung wildly back and forth on an emotional pendulum, and this is definitely Jan. Now he realizes the balancing stability of temperance. He discovers true poise and equilibrium. By experiencing the extremes, he has come to appreciate moderation. The fool has combined all aspects of himself into a centered whole that glows with health and well-being. How graceful and soft is the angel on card 14 compared to the powerful but rigid ruler in the chariot. Note, the fool has come a long way in realizing the harmonious life. So Jan is now in the learning life phase of temperance. It's not always easy to maintain a temperament, like just a moderate and even moderate temperament, as life is in chaos. But it is a necessary part if you want your life to begin to move forward in a positive direction. The temperance card in the upright position represents alchemy. So this is our alchemy card, right? Temperance is alchemy. This is a time where you can take all your experiences and create a positive result from it by looking at the many different perspectives that is available to us. For many, after periods of the hanged man and death, may find themselves amidst abuse-type addiction states like alcohol or food abuses and other resorts, even creating your own onset of depression. This would be the temperance in the reverse position. So in the temperance in the upright position, we're talking about alchemy, right? This is an opportunity to take the experiences of your life and try to create a magical betterment as you begin to move forward. In the reverse, and that's in the upright position. In the reverse position, it represents negative overindulgence. So this could be drinking away your woes, picking up a new drug habit just to kind of, get some sleep at night, or overeating, or just kind of overdoing it in anything, like overdoing the negative emotions. So temperance upright is alchemy, and temperance in the while temperance reversed is I'm all over the map with my emotions right now. Okay, so Jan decides to choose alchemy and begins to create a more powerful version of herself. She wants to move forward, right? So the Fool has his health, his peace of mind, and a graceful composure. What more could we need? On every day, charms not much, right? But the Fool is courageous and continues to pursue the deepest levels of his being. He soon comes to face with the devil. So how many of you have ever had a devil card show up and go like, oh my God, what is that? Why is the devil showing up in my deck? So before I begin to read the Fool's Journey part of this, I just want to say the devil represents your ego and personal material things. It represents the kind of like the material kind of physical kind of presences within all of us and the ego within all of us, right? So the devil is not an evil, sinister figure residing outside of us. He is the knot of ignorance and hopelessness, lodged within each of us at some level. The seductive attractions of the material bind us so compellingly that we often do not even realize that we become slaves to them. We live in a limited range of experience, unaware of the glorious world that is our true heritage. The couple on card 15 are chained, but they can be freed. Okay? They could so easily free themselves that they do not even apprehend their bondage. They don't even realize that they're chained. They look like the lovers, but are unaware that their love is circumscribed with the narrow range. The price of this ignorance is an inner core of despair. So our Jan has been through an incredible life process. She's trying to pull herself together, and the journey has brought her to this place where she is like determined, like recreating herself and her vision. She's like, I am the goddess warrior woman. Watch out, here I come, right? She feels strangely empowered by this, and yet doesn't realize that sometimes the journey forward takes a little more time to integrate, right? So she's pushing. She really begins to push, and she's pushing her goals, and she's trying to get to large pursuits instead of like setting things as smaller goals and smaller steps and seeing that smaller steps are achievement and like celebrating that and being in the moment, right? She wants to believe she's invincible, and she is. Like, she totally is invincible, but she really doesn't believe it. She wants it, but she really doesn't believe it, right? So the devil card upright represents instant gratification. Like, we're the microwave society. I want my coffee in 2 minutes, pop it in the microwave and take it out of there, right? It's the card that says you are comparing your worth to what you receive. You're comparing your worth to what you receive. In the reverse position, this card represents a time where you are spending more time with your shadow self. And this is not necessarily a bad thing, but this is always in a place of healing, right? So if you get the devil reverse, it's saying you're kind of spending too much time like going through your shadow. It's like really time to like move and start like creating and looking at things to celebrate. The devil upright is like, there's a shadow working within me, but I'm not even recognizing it. But the devil reversed is like, yeah, I'm going to like process all the devil things, and I'm going to stay within my inner self. I'm going to stay with my child. I'm going to run through my child. I'm going to run through my inner child. I'm going to go through all this healing, but I'm going to only look at what needs to be like fixed and worked on. I'm never going to actually like start celebrating where I am, right? So the devil card is kind of like, it has a little negative influence in either position, because you do have to recognize where your shadows are coming up. You have to be able to navigate through your shadows. And in the devil upright, we're not even recognizing that our shadows are active. And it reversed, it's overactive. Like, we're doing too much, right? So, in the reverse position, this card represents time where you are spending more time with your shadow self, always in a place of healing. In both respects, this card says we are chaining ourselves to the results. And Jan, in a desperate attempt to reclaim a more powerful self-worth, is doing so with like how many clients am I getting? How many dollars am I making? And like this many clients and this many people equals this many dollars. And then I can buy this, and then I can go get this, and then I can like put this in my, oh, and then I'll have this much money in my bank account. Like it's all about like the dollars and the physical aspects of what I'm receiving. Is really not about the passion work that she's doing. She's kind of identifying herself, her worth with how much she makes, right? So she's starting to alchemize herself, and then got a little lost because she was like, hurrah, because she tried to push too far, right? Like, here I am, watch me roar. She pushed too hard. She created resistance for herself, and now she's attached to material things. She's chained to them. She's chained to them, right? So this is our hot mess express time period, right? And it's a powerful one because if not realized early on, it can lead to the tower moments of our lives. There should be a soap opera called The Tower Moments of Our Lives. And our lovely Jan is now headed there. She's now headed there. So our Jan has been through a hellacious journey over the past 6 months. Emotions bouncing up, emotions going down, hard pushes to soft inner reflections, and the journey finally moves into the impending doom of the tower. And this is the real dun 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 the tower. So whenever somebody gets a tower card and get pulled for them, there is a little freak out if you know what tarot means, because in the whole deck, the tower card is the card that you don't want to see. You don't want to see. The tower represents destruction. It represents like you've built a tower and now it's blew up. And all the pieces are beginning to fall, right? I went through a massive tower moment this past fall. It was definitely a tower destruction phase in my life. How can the fool free himself from the devil? Well, there's only one way. Can he root out his influence? The fool may only find the release through the sudden change represented by the tower. The tower's like, oh, you want to focus on all that material shit, right? And not like be in line with yourself. We're just going to take it all away. Boom, it's gone, right? The tower is the ego fortress each of us has built around this beautiful inner core. Lisa says, oh, how many times I've gone through the tower. Gray, cold, and rock hard, this fortress seems to protect, but it's really a prison. Sometimes only a monumental crisis can generate enough power to smash the walls of the tower. On card 16, we see an enlightening bolt strike in the building. It has ejected the occupants who seem to be tumbling to their deaths. The crown indicates that they were once proud rulers. Now they are humbled by a force stronger than they. The fool may need such a severe shakeup to free himself, but the resulting revelation makes the painful experience worthwhile. Oh my God, if all of us could look to all of our moments, even the most painful ones, and go, yes, this is benefiting me. Yes, it hurts like a mofo, but it's benefiting me. It's going to bring me to something great. I just know it. The dark despair is blasted away in an instant, and the light of truth is free to shine down. So our Jan lost her husband. Her business is suffering. She's trying to Shiva her way through this shit. She's now freaked out about money, so she's attaching dollar bills to like her clients, and like she's just kind of like all over the place, and she doesn't know what's going to happen, and oh my God, right? Upright, she will experience outer influences that will shake her to the core. Shake her to the core. Loss of money, and eventually her home. Janet Elliott will eventually have to move across the state, back to her roots, back home with her daddy, who's been calling to her because he lost his wife and would love to have his daughter and his grandson there. She doesn't really want to go. He wants her there. She needs to rebuild. She goes back home to daddy. Lost her home, lost her credit. Money's all just a mess. Just a mess. reversed. She would go through the process while they're in her own personal belief system. So oftentimes, like when we are going through the tower moments of our lives, there's external influences that are like just shaking shit down, right? It's just like either like no matter what I do, like nothing is working. Everything is just kind of like ripping from underneath my feet and just like, right? But oftentimes, when we're going through an upright tower moment in our lives like this, there's also times where we'll start to go through the reverse position in the tower, which when the tower is reversed, it's like we are looking at our lives going, I need to change this. My beliefs are changing around this. I feel differently around this. So oftentimes when we start getting the rug pulled out from underneath us, it kind of brings us back into center. Like it kind of forces you there, you know? And then you start to kind of like gain like kind of like an insight as to why you're going through this tower moment. Like, and you start to kind of look at things and go, okay, I really need to like change my belief systems around this. So undoubtedly she's going through both. She's going through the tower in the upright and the tower in the reverse position, right? This is her rock bottom. This is her rock bottom. But the funny thing about the rock bottoms is that this is our ability to build anew, right? So going through a tower experience will be one of the hardest journeys any of us will ever have to face. But all of us will eventually face a tower. Every single one of us is going to eventually face a tower. It's just part of the journey of life, right? So being home with her dad is going to give her a sense of peace. It's going to give her a sense of renewed peace, but will also alert her to the many mindsets that she's adapted through life. Like if you ever spend some time with family after you've gone through this whole process of like, you know, building anew and, you know, figuring out your mindsets and changing your belief systems, and all of a sudden you go home and it's like, oh my God, that's where I got that. That's where I got that. Oh my God, like that's where I got that. Yeah, that's what's happening to Jan right now. Okay. All right, taking a breath. How's everybody feeling? Everybody's still feeling good? Still feeling good? Did I lose anybody? Does anybody have any questions at this point? Just going to take a nice little breath. I really put Jan through a lot in this story, didn't I? The poor woman's lost her mother. She's had cancer. She's lost her husband. She lost her house. God, she's been through shit. She's been through hell and back. Kristen's still feeling good. Krisha's still feeling good. Angie's still feeling good. Okay, not losing anybody. Heidi's still hanging on there with us. Good. Kim is feeling good. I think Brian's recording. I may be recording after this. Lisa's really good. Lori's like, yes, you did. Yes, I did. What? Okay. Oh, I put it through hell. Okay, yeah, I did. I put it through hell. Okay. So, Jan's now hanging out with Dad, figuring out where all her damn mindset is coming from, right? And the Fool's journey comes in to say, the Fool is sufficed with serene calm. The beautiful images on the star attest to this tranquility. The woman pictured on card 17 is naked, her soul no longer hidden behind any disguise. Radiant stars shine in a cloudless sky, serving as a beacon of hope and inspiration. The Fool is blessed with a trust that completely replaces the negative energies of the devil. His faith in himself and the future is restored. He is filled with joy, and his one wish is to share it generously with the world. His heart is open, and his love pours out freely. The peace after the storm is a magical moment for the Fool. The Star card. I love this card, right? Because the Star card gives us inspiration and hope after so many losses. Our Jan has been thinking about her therapeutic career. Remember in the beginning of the story, I told you that she was a licensed psychologist, right? And she kind of put her career on hold to do this coaching. But now she's been thinking about her therapy. Like she's been thinking about like going back into therapy or like really starting her therapy career. She had a really great conversation with her father, and he asked her to remember why she started. You remembering why we started is always such an important question. It's always such an important question when we feel a little lost. And so her dad asked her to remember why she started and what it was about this field that made her feel the passion in the first place to start it. Being a therapist himself, he encouraged her to come and work in his office, be one of the licensed practitioners in his office. He's going to be retiring in several years, and it would be a great start to build not only the therapeutic career, but the coaching one too, to kind of blend them together, she could be doing both, right? Jan is feeling really hopeful about this and hopeful about the future. If the star was reversed, though, we're in the star card, we're feeling the hope, we're kind of oh my God, this could be something new. Maybe I should start this, But if it was in the reverse position, Jan would be feeling no hope about this new start. She'd be I don't know if I want to do that. That just doesn't sound like fun, right? It doesn't feel like it motivates me or gets me excited, right? She'd be looking for the reasons to not give it a try at all. Oh my God, working with my father, she'd be going through that kind of process. But our Jan is pushing forward. So her star is upright. She's kind of excited. This could give a kind of a little nuance to what she's doing. And maybe have the support of her dad who owns the office and the opportunities ahead, right? So here we are. We got this hope. We're in this hope. We're in the kind of hopeful feeling. The star gives us kind of renewed inspiration. And we're kind of in this calm. And then all of a sudden, what effect could spoil this perfect calm? Is there another challenge for the fool? In fact, it is his bliss that makes him vulnerable to the illusions of the moon. The fool's joy is a feeling state. His positive emotions are not yet subject to mental clarity. He's still getting over some shit, right? Jan is still getting over some stuff, right? And the idea that this new job in her dad's office is going to give her good new inspiration and hope, it's kind of an illusion. Yeah, this is great. It's movement forward, but yeah, you're not really clear on what you want, are you? Because you're still kind of going through the past emotions of the tower and the devil and all that shit, right? So in this dreamy condition, the fool is kind of susceptible to fantasy, distortion, and a false picture of the truth. The moon stimulates the creative imagination. It opens the way for bizarre and beautiful thoughts to bubble up from the unconscious. But deep-seated fears and anxieties also arise. These experiences may cause the fool to feel lost and bewildered. So, Jan is now entering into the moon phase of her journey. She begins working with her dad, and just in 8 weeks, she realizes, oh my God, there was a reason I never started this. There was a reason why I never really began working with him. Oh no, right? She loves working through the empowered facets of coaching, but this work is just kind of really depressing. She's getting all kinds of depression and clients who are in really bad places, and she's ending the day, and it's just so overwhelming and sad. It's just she's not the right person for this, right? She's not the right person for this, and she recognizes it early on. But now she has to come to a point where she got to disappoint her dad. Oh shit, right? Here my dad's trying to help me. I don't want to do this, right? So she begins that walk to his office, I gotta either tell him the truth, how I feel, or just stay here and just suffer through it. But she can't. She just can't. So if the moon was reversed, Jan would be experiencing some insights on how to approach her father, right? So the moon reverse is all about creativity, opening up things. There's channeling coming through and downloads coming through. So if the moon was in reverse, you'd be okay, let's talk to my dad about this and maybe moving forward in this way, and maybe we could do this, maybe we could do that. But she's not. Her moon is upright. And she's oh damn, I gotta go. I gotta tell him the truth. I really don't want to, but I have to. I have to tell him, right? So she goes and she sits in his office and she sits down and she sighs. And then we go back to the Fool's Journey where it says, it is the lucid clarity of the sun. The lucid clarity of the sun that directs the fool's imagination. The sun's illumination shines in all the hidden places, right? It the clouds of confusion and fear. It enlightens so the fool both feels and understands the goodness of the world. Now he enjoys a vibrant energy and enthusiasm. The star's openness has solidified into an expansive assurance. The fool is the naked babe pictured on card 19, riding out joyously to face a new day. No challenge is too daunting. Right? The sun is on my face. It feels good. No challenge is too daunting. The fool feels a radiant vitality. He becomes involved in grand undertakings as he draws to himself everything he needs. He is able to realize his greatness. So Jan makes this great walk to her father's office. Her heart feeling this overwhelming, soar of sadness. Sits down in front of her dad and sighs. And to her surprise, her dad responds, "Not for you, huh?" "No, Dad, it's not," she says with a heaviness. "It's just not." And he responds, "Well, I see the great work that you did with that Emily Wilson. Like, you really uplifted her, and I think she's the kind of client, that comes into this office that you need to work with, And I was thinking, when you were a little girl and you had all those dreams about, visiting different places and traveling, and here I am. I've been thinking, this office needs to start doing healing retreats, but I'm your dad. I'm this old dude who's, really not into it. But maybe that's the kind of work that you could do. Maybe you could do that for this office. Maybe you could head this off and start doing retreats, for these women. And maybe even kind of bring the coaching element into it. And the people that, are not really in that place of massive depression but need empowerment can go into these healing retreats. And maybe you could head that off for this office. The sun upright brings new hope and inspiration for the future. Reversed, Jan would tell her father, "No, I need some time, Dad. This sounds really cool, but I need to go play. I need to just shirk off responsibilities. I need to go play. I need to go have fun. I'm going to go on vacation, and maybe I'll go start my own thing somewhere else." But our Jan is in the sun upright position. This is exciting. This is good news. This is great. She had this little challenge, the moon coming in, and just kind of oh my God. But the sun comes in to kind of say, there's newness. The sun in either position is never negative. Whenever you have the sun card, I don't care how you flip it, the sun card is never ever negative. So in either position, it's really good. It's just how we look at the perspectives of the sun. Upright is yes, I feel it. Yes, this is fantastic. I'm ecstatic. I'm happy. And in the down bit right position is I'm ready to go play. I'm ready to go play in that sun. I'm shirking off my stuff, So our Jan is moving forward. So the fool has been reborn. His false ego self has been shed, allowing his radiant true self to manifest. He has discovered that joy, not fear, is at life's center. The fool feels absolved. He forgives himself and others, knowing that his real self is pure and good. He may regret past mistakes, but he knows that they were due to the ignorance of his true nature. He feels cleansed and refreshed and ready to start anew. It is time for the fool to make a deeper judgment. And here we have the judgment card. A deeper judgment about his life. His own personal day of reckoning has arrived. Since he now sees himself truly, he can make the necessary decisions about the future. He can choose wisely which values to cherish and which to discard. The angel on card 20 is the fool's higher self, calling him to rise up and fulfill his promise. He discovers his true vocation, his reason for entering this life. Doubts and hesitations vanish, and he is ready to follow his dream. Jan is ecstatic. Suddenly, everything begins to click in and make sense. Everything. She sees now that everything that occurred led her to this greater calling. Her judgment softens in the upright position, and she feels lifted, elated, and for the first time in a very long time, empowered and inspired with this new path. If the judgment card was reversed here, Jan would be not feeling very inspired by this new venture. She would be afraid to tell her father, and this undertaking would be really, really overwhelming. She'd be afraid that she was going to fail him. So when judgment's reversed, it's like, oh my God, I'm afraid of what other people are going to think about me doing this. I'm afraid about failing my parents or failing myself. I'm just terribly afraid. Like, I want to do it, but I'm afraid. Like, it's total, like, you're in total judgment of yourself. When it's upright, you're like releasing yourself of this judgment. Reverse signifies that the universe says, go bigger. And you respond with, I'm too afraid to do that. No, right? But her judgment is in the upright position, and she's feeling really good, and she's feeling really good about all the things, and everything makes sense. Now she can see how all the things led her here to this new path and to this new calling, and she just feels elated. So in this last part of the Fool's journey, the Fool re-enters the world, but this time with a more complete understanding. He has integrated all the disparate parts of himself and achieved his wholeness. He has reached a new level of happiness and fulfillment. The Fool experiences life as full and meaningful. The future is filled with infinite promise. In line with his personal calling, becomes actively involved in the world. He renders service by sharing his unique gifts and talents, and finds that he prospers at whatever he attempts. Because he acts from inner certainty, the whole world conspires to see that his efforts are rewarded. His accomplishments are many. So the Fool's journey was not so foolish after all. Through perseverance and honesty, he reestablished the spontaneous courage that first impelled him on his search for self. But now he is fully aware of his place in the world. The cycle is over. But the Fool will never stop growing. Soon he will be ready to begin a new journey that will lead him to ever greater levels of understanding. And here is our Jan on the beach in